but I also admire my Polish culture, and I want to preserve it. I want to nurture it. I don't want it to be destroyed by Muslim migrants coming from the Middle East or from Africa.
As the EU faces a migration crisis and Poland's new left-wing government shuts down the public broadcaster, I'm joined by the former Conservative Prime Minister of Poland. Are you worried about the rule of law in Poland following the closing down of the public broadcaster by the new government?
I am afraid of what is going to happen quite soon, because we experience unprecedented happenings. First, public television broadcasting has been cut, and millions of Poles could not get any access to information. This has happened for the first time in decades. Last time when it happened, it was during martial law in 1981. When the TV programs were cut. So that's unprecedented, and I am afraid of what can happen next. It's all about media pluralism and freedom of speech. I was, by the way, fighting for those values in the 80s. And I was persecuted by the friends of those people who are currently in the government. So, ironically and unfortunately, the same people who were communists during the 80s are now part of the coalition forming the government. So I regret to say that I am afraid of the democratic standards. And in fact, all what is happening around public media indicates that there might be coup attempts going forward, because cutting people of information or giving only one sort of information, one set of information, is characteristic for dictatorships. And we now have different medias, but they are very much, in the opinion of, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many people, they behave like departments of civic platform, departments of the government, which is not right. Media should control the government and not be a part of the government.
You're not the only one making comparisons to communism. I want to give you a quote from Anne Applebaum, the journalist and the wife of the new foreign minister in the new government. And she said on Twitter, until the 15th of October, Poland wasn't a normal democracy, and this isn't a normal transition. Several institutions, the state media, and especially the courts, were operating outside of the constitution and had been captured by peace. This is now more like a transition from communism. How do you respond to these comments?
The new Minister of Justice has proposed a resolution which is of which intention is to have impact, to actually cut off some of the common courts, some of the judges from adjudicating. This is clearly violating Polish constitution, and these are communist standards. The Minister of Justice is not the highest of the highest judges. He should be servant of all the judiciary system. And right now, they propose not only that the European Union law, the European law should be proceeding, should be should go prior to the Polish law, which is against Polish constitution, but also they are proposing to create a mechanism through which one judge could actually eliminate another judge from adjudicating, which is completely not democratic. So that's only one example. Another example is that democracy can only work appropriately if there are independent media. Independent media are vital for functioning of liberal democracy, all sorts of democracies. And the fact of the matter was that the public media were giving different perspective for a number of people, and they were different from all other major liberal media, which are dominating political scene and media scene. So this would be the second reply to your question, and the third one is related to the recent happenings, recent development of legislation in the European Union. It was early this week when, in so-called trilogues, the Parliament and the Commission and the Council agreed to Migration Pact. Migration Pact is an euphemism for forcing member states to accept illegal migrants, and if they are not accepting those illegal migrants, they are forced to pay severe fines, severe penalties. And you would probably think that this is part of the discussion in Poland this week, but this is not. Why this is not part of the discussion? Because of monopolization of media in the hands of the government. This was the major topic of Polish referendum. 11 million people, close to 11 million people, decided that they don't want to accept illegal migration being distributed across Poland. Notwithstanding this, the Polish government is silently agreeing to all the proceedings now in progress in Europe. My government was opposing to this for 7 or 8 years, and in June 2018, we were able to work out a compromise, or actually a new solution, which was included in the conclusions of the European Council. And the solution stated that all the process of the related to illegal migrants has to be voluntary. It cannot be compulsory. And now the Polish government is going away from this rule.
I do want to ask you about the Migration Pact in a moment, but just before, very, very briefly, back to the TVP and the public broadcaster. Do you accept that TVP was a mouthpiece for peace, was essentially government propaganda for your party? And a second part to that question, do you think that British Conservatives should be concerned potentially about a Labour Party, the opposition party, shutting down, let's say, the BBC or our own public broadcaster?
I'm not so much familiar with the circumstances of media in the United Kingdom, so it's difficult to answer your second question. To your first question, I am aware of all the criticism of public media during the last 7 or 8 years. Having said that, there is huge difference between being criticized and censorship. And what we now are experiencing is censorship. Because if all major internet portals and if all major TV programs, TV stations are in the hands or under umbrella of one political party, this is called dictatorship. This is not called democracy. And British conservatives should be aware of this. I'm not complaining because we never complain to international institutions about what is going on in Poland, because we are an independent state and we are not calling for any institution to intervene, which was very frequently done by our predecessors. But I do want to inform everybody about this violation of freedom of speech in Poland. Go on.
Just very briefly, do you support the Polish truckers who are blockading the border with Ukraine over this dispute around EU permits?
Let me connect the two topics briefly, because this is an excellent example of what I was trying to explain. The Polish truckers protesting at the border was topic number one in all the media in Poland for 4 or 5 weeks before the change of the government. Now, guess what has happened after the change of the government, when all the media are under control of the new government, the Tusk government. This is not a major problem anymore. This is not a topic, because this is how monopoly works. Once the media are under control of the government, all the topics which are not so good for them, which create any different problems for them, are eliminated from public discussion. And this is what has happened to Polish truckers. Now, let me reply to your question. This is a major issue. And the issue is stemming from the fact that the special permissions for Ukrainian truckers have been abandoned in May or June 2022, after the war in Ukraine started. And this gesture made by the European Commission created huge problems for the Polish truckers. So I support all the Polish truckers in their attempt to re-establish the permission system. And towards the end of our government, at the beginning of December, my Minister for Foreign Affairs and Minister for European Affairs and Minister for Infrastructure and Transportation, they have clearly indicated in the European Commission and in the Council that we have to go back to the system of permissions for Ukrainian truck drivers, and this will be our proposal to resolve this conflict.
Back to the issue of migration. Do you believe that migration from third world countries, particularly from Africa and Asia, represents a threat to European civilization?
Yes, I do believe that they represent the illegal migrants. They represent threat to the European peace, to European security, and in a longer distance, also in the longer term, also to European civilization. This is why we want to help all those countries which have problems with their situation in situ. We want to help them and those illegal migrants and the migrants wherever in the country of origin. And this was always our view. This was always what I have been expressing very, very strongly till the very last moment of discussion in the European Council, on the European Council forum. And this will be clearly our position going forward. We do not agree on any form of compulsory distribution of migrants across member states. We do not agree to compulsory distribution of migrants into Poland, specifically, of course, or paying for not accepting those migrants. This is one of the biggest threats going forward for the European Union, sir, because I think that accepting 1 million or 2 million of illegal migrants can be the beginning of huge wave, which can pose a very serious threat to the whole of the European Union and the stability of the European Union and for the security of the European Union.
Are you concerned that as Poland becomes a richer nation, more migrants will flood into Poland, and that might change the demographics of Poland, like in countries Germany, Britain and France, where we've seen huge demographic changes over the last 20 or 30 years. And as you say, that might lead to various issues in terms of security, in terms of social cohesion, economic pressures. So are you concerned that Poland could witness that same demographic shift that Britain, France and Germany have all seen?
Yes, I am. I am fearful of such a tendency, such a trend, which is clearly visible, very much visible in France, in Germany, and in other countries. We were very open to war refugees from Ukraine when the need was there. Poland accepted close to 2.5 million of war refugees, and we still have close to 2 million of Ukrainian population in our country. We have been very generous for them. We have offered access to healthcare system, to the education system, to social security system for all of them. By the way, more than 1 million of those have jobs. They pay taxes in Poland, pay social security, and they behave very well. And they are culturally very similar to Poles. So it is not that we are opposing any support for our neighbors. We have presented all sorts of solidarity aspects, and we have opened our hearts and our gates for war refugees. But this is very much different from huge Muslim migrants from the Middle East who are coming to Germany and France and other countries, and who want to change their culture of those countries, those nations. I am clearly opposing to such attempts. I'm admiring French culture, I'm admiring Spanish culture and the British culture, but I also admire my Polish culture, and I want to preserve it. I want to nurture it. I don't want it to be destroyed by Muslim migrants coming from the Middle East or from Africa.
If you're so concerned about this threat to Polish culture, why did your government hand out work visas to so many African migrants? You were criticised by Confederacja for allowing in thousands of people from Africa into Poland, and some people say that they're concerned, again, about changing Poland's demographics.
We have not been giving those visas because we have a very stringent system of migrant workers who can be accepted for 3 or 6 months or up to 12 months. And the whole process which you have described was part of the political campaign during the last phase of the campaign. And I can give you an example. The whole crime related to 250 visas, not 250,000 visas. There was a crime, there was a corruption, but this related to 250. 250 comparing to 250,000, which was presented as such by our opponents and also our opponents from Confederacja. Are completely different figures. Everyone can realize that. So we are very open to support our neighbors from Ukraine. We have very stringent rules to accept any migrant workers and we accept them only if they are needed in different sectors of our economy. And the scandal which you have briefly described was part of the propaganda during the political campaign. And the best proof for this, the best evidence of this, is that the scandal related to 250 visas and not 250,000 of visas.
Thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.